On the rocky coast of Maine, where the Atlantic crashes violently against jagged cliffs, there stands a lighthouse older than memory. Its stone tower rises above the restless sea, a sentinel of light that has guided ships for over a century. Locals call it Graywick Point Lighthouse, though over the years, it has earned another, darker name, the Lighthouse That Never Sleeps. From the mainland, it looks like any other lighthouse, its beams sweeping rhythmically across the waves every night without fail. But what makes Graywick Point so unsettling is that no one has lived there for decades. The keeper vanished long ago, and yet the light continues to turn. The story begins in the winter of 1911, when a man named Elias Thatcher accepted the position of lighthouse keeper. He was a quiet man, recently widowed, seeking solitude by the sea. The job suited him, a life of routine, of keeping the lamp fueled and the gears turning, of recording the tides and weather in meticulous journals. For years, he performed his duties faithfully, and sailors came to trust the steady glow of Graywick Point. But in 1922, something changed. That spring, fishermen in the nearby village began reporting strange occurrences. They claimed to hear voices carried on the wind whenever the lighthouse beam passed over the sea. The voices were faint, like whispers echoing from beneath the waves. Some swore they heard names being called, sometimes their own. Others described laughter, or weeping, or a chorus of words in a language they could not understand. Elias himself began to change. His journals, once filled with neat records of the weather, grew increasingly erratic. He wrote of dreams that seemed too vivid to be dreams at all, dreams of drowning, of endless staircases spiraling downward into the dark, of faces pressed against the glass of the lantern room, watching him as he worked. He wrote of footsteps echoing on the stone stairs when he was alone, and of the light refusing to extinguish even when the mechanism was stopped. Neighbors noticed that Elias no longer came into town for supplies. When they finally rode out to check on him, they found the lighthouse door unlocked and the lamp burning as always. But Elias was gone. His bed was neatly made, his boots by the door, his coat on its hook. The journal on his desk ended mid-sentence, the final words written in a shaky hand, "The sea is calling my name." Despite extensive searches, his body was never found. The authorities assumed he had fallen into the water and drowned. Yet what unsettled the villagers most was not his disappearance, but the fact that the light continued to burn. Even after his absence, the great lamp still turned every night, steady and unbroken, though no one was there to tend it. Over the decades, attempts were made to decommission the lighthouse. Technicians sent to dismantle the mechanism found that the lamp could not be shut down. The flame reignited itself, even after the fuel was drained. The great gears resumed their turning, though no one had wound them. One worker described hearing whispers inside the lantern room, voices so loud he fled and refused ever to return. Another claimed that the sea itself seemed to rise higher the closer he approached, waves slamming against the rocks as if warning him away. The government eventually gave up. They boarded the doors and declared the lighthouse sealed, yet the beam still swept the waves, every night without fail. And so Graywick Point became a legend. Fishermen still swear that the voices continue. Some say they belong to sailors lost at sea, forever tied to the light that once guided them. Others insist the voices belong to something older, something that has always lived beneath the waves, using the lighthouse as its mouthpiece. The bravest, or most foolish, claim that if you listen closely when the beam passes over your boat, you can hear the sea speaking directly to you, calling you closer to the rocks. There are darker stories still. One captain in the 1950s reported that when his ship passed Graywick Point, the light froze in place, its beam locked on his vessel for nearly an hour. During that time, his crew swore they heard footsteps on the deck though no one was there, and shadows moving across the sails though the sky was clear. When the beam finally resumed its rotation, half the crew resigned at the next port, refusing ever to sail near Maine again. By the 1970s, thrill seekers and paranormal investigators began to take an interest in the lighthouse. A few managed to sneak inside, breaking through the boarded doors. Some returned with recordings of whispers captured on tape, though most were nearly unintelligible. A handful of others never returned at all. Their boats were found drifting near the rocks, empty. Locals shook their heads and muttered the same warning: the lighthouse takes who it wants. Today, Greywick Point still stands, weathered but unbroken. The tower is scarred by storms, its stone blackened by salt and time, yet the lantern shines as brightly as ever. The coastline nearby is littered with wrecks, rusted hulls of ships that struck the rocks, their crews swallowed by the sea. Many believe the light does not guide sailors to safety at all, but lures them to their doom. And always, the voices remain. On stormy nights, when the beam cuts through sheets of rain, the air is filled with them, crying, laughing, whispering. Some fishermen cover their ears when the light passes, afraid to hear their own names called. Others pray, hoping the sea will overlook them. But everyone agrees, the lighthouse never sleeps, and it never stops watching. Some claim to have seen a figure standing in the lantern room, a shadow moving against the glow. A man in a coat, his hands resting on the railing as if he never left. Whether it is Elias Thatcher, still tending the light in death, or something else entirely, no one can say. What is certain is that Greywick Point Lighthouse is not like any other. It endures storms, it defies abandonment, it consumes those who come too close. And so the legend lives on, the lighthouse that never sleeps, the eternal eye of the sea, sweeping across the waves in search of its next victim.